For centuries, the galaxy had been at war. On one side stood the Technari Empire, an immense force driven by their hunger for expansion. They had built an empire not just on conquest but on technological superiority that dwarfed any other civilization. The Technari possessed machines capable of bending reality, fleets that spanned entire star systems, and weapons that could shatter moons with a single strike. Their goal was simple: absolute domination. No species had been able to challenge them directly without facing utter annihilation. Opposing them was the Xyrax Coalition, a coalition of species that had united in desperation to resist the Technari's relentless advance. Where the Technari relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, the Xyrax favored strategy, subterfuge, and precision. They fought with cunning, using their smaller fleets to outmaneuver and exploit any weaknesses in the Technari's seemingly invincible war machine. While they lacked the Technari's raw power, their understanding of guerrilla tactics and espionage gave them an edge. The galaxy had seen countless battles between these two factions, with no clear victor emerging. Entire planets had been reduced to ash, civilizations erased from history, and solar systems left as empty wastelands in the wake of their endless conflict. The Technari, with their massive resources, believed victory was inevitable. Their strategy relied on grinding the Xyrax into submission over time, confident that the Xyrax's hit-and-run tactics couldn't sustain a prolonged war. Yet, despite their confidence, the war dragged on. The Xyrax refused to surrender. They were losing territory, yes, but their determination was fierce. They deployed their spies, saboteurs, and assassins deep into Technari-controlled space, creating chaos behind enemy lines. The Technari, for all their power, were beginning to feel the strain. Their technological advantage was no longer guaranteeing swift victories, and the costs of maintaining a war that spanned entire sectors of the galaxy were mounting. Amid this chaos, there was one planet that neither faction gave any thought to: Earth. In the grand scheme of galactic warfare, humanity was nothing more than an afterthought, a primitive species confined to a single planet. Both the Technari and Xyrax had access to surveillance data on Earth, though they barely paid attention to it. Earth was labeled as a backwater world, inhabited by creatures barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone a factor in an intergalactic conflict. To the great powers of the galaxy, humanity was primitive, inconsequential, and easily ignored. The Technari, with their arrogance, saw Earth as a potential resource to exploit when the time was right. They made cursory observations, scanning the planet's technological infrastructure and noting the lack of advanced weapons systems or space fleets. Primitive, they said. Inconsequential, they repeated. Earth was nothing more than a speck of dust in the Technari's grand vision of galactic conquest. Their scans detected humans using combustion engines, crude space stations, and barely functioning satellites. The Technari dismissed humanity as a non-threat, believing that even if Earth somehow got involved in the war, it would be more of an inconvenience than a challenge. The Xyrax held a similar view. Their spies had gathered some intelligence on Earth, but like the Technari, they saw no reason to concern themselves with a planet that hadn't even developed faster-than-light travel. Earth was, at best, an insignificant anomaly in the vastness of space. Inconsequential was the most common term used when discussing the humans. The Xyrax, always focused on survival, didn't even consider recruiting humanity to their cause. Why bother when their limited resources could be used elsewhere in the galaxy? However, the surveillance that both factions conducted on Earth was flawed in one key aspect. They were looking at the wrong things. The Technari and Xyrax only saw what was obvious, what was on the surface. They scanned the planet's industrial output, its military assets, and its space programs, missing the subtle complexities that defined humanity. While both factions dismissed Earth's potential, there were hidden signals that hinted at something far more dangerous. The Technari had intercepted encrypted communications between human nations, but they deemed the content irrelevant. Discussions of politics, economics, and global alliances seemed petty in comparison to the grand scale of galactic warfare. They had also picked up encrypted military chatter, though nothing stood out to them as technologically advanced or threatening. To the Technari, humanity was still centuries behind the galactic powers. But the signals continued. Here and there, strange data patterns emerged. Military broadcasts from Earth contained levels of encryption that shouldn't have existed on such a primitive planet. Scans of Earth's population showed a level of adaptability and innovation that seemed unusually rapid for a species of their technological standing. The Technari dismissed these as anomalies, glitches in their surveillance systems, or just another example of a lesser species attempting to imitate the great powers of the galaxy. The Xyrax, too, noticed inconsistencies in the data. Human technological development was progressing faster than it should have, considering their primitive state. There were rumors of strange experiments, hidden technologies, and advancements in military strategies that seemed disproportionate to Earth's standing in the galactic hierarchy. But the Xyrax, like the Technari, were too focused on their war to give Earth a second thought. What neither the Technari nor the Xyrax realized was that humanity had been preparing. Though Earth was relatively new to space exploration, human history was filled with war, conflict, and the relentless drive to survive. Humanity had faced extinction before, self-inflicted wars, environmental disasters, and existential threats that nearly wiped them out. Each time, they adapted. Each time, they grew stronger. And now, on the verge of their next great leap into space, humanity was on the brink of becoming something far more dangerous than the Technari or Xyrax could have anticipated. The galactic powers continued to fight, unaware that their war was about to take a sharp and unexpected turn. The surveillance on Earth continued, but the real threat remained hidden beneath layers of encryption, misinformation, and the human capacity for innovation. What the Technari and Xyrax failed to understand was that humanity's strength wasn't in their technology, but in their will to survive at all costs. As the war between the Technari and the Xyrax dragged on, the galaxy remained ignorant of Earth's growing potential. But it wouldn't be long before both factions would be forced to reckon with a new power, one that had been overlooked for far too long. The humans were about to enter the war, and when they did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The Technari Empire was confident that their initial scouting mission to Earth would go as planned. The scout ship, a sleek vessel equipped with the latest in cloaking and detection technologies, approached Earth without concern. After all, this was just another insignificant planet in the eyes of the Empire, one more resource to exploit when they deemed it necessary. The scout ship's orders were simple: assess the planetary defenses and report back. But what they encountered was far from what they had expected. The Technari had encountered countless species during their conquest of the galaxy, and most followed the same pattern. Initial resistance would be minimal, a show of force, and then a swift surrender once the invaders demonstrated their superior firepower. It was a system that worked flawlessly in the past, and they saw no reason why Earth would be any different. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere undetected, gathering information on human defense systems. Satellites were analyzed, military bases scanned, and communications intercepted. The Technari crew laughed as they observed what they considered to be outdated technology. Ballistic missiles? Aircraft carriers? The Technari couldn't imagine that a species so reliant on these primitive tools could pose any threat to them. They decided to send a transmission to Earth's leaders, offering them the standard ultimatum: surrender, or be destroyed. To their surprise, the humans did not respond with fear or capitulation. Instead, within moments of receiving the transmission, Earth's defense systems activated, and they opened fire. Missiles streaked towards the Technari scout ship, locking on with precision that should have been impossible for a species of Earth's supposed technological level. The Technari crew barely had time to react, scrambling to activate their shields as the first wave of missiles struck. It wasn't the raw power of the attack that surprised the Technari, but the effectiveness of the humans' targeting. Their cloaking systems had failed to hide them, and their ship, despite being technologically superior, had been caught off guard. The scout ship took damage, forcing them to retreat into space for repairs. But even as they fled, they realized that Earth was not the simple conquest they had assumed it would be. The Technari, now concerned, sent word back to their empire about the incident. They downplayed the human resistance, chalking it up to luck or a malfunction in their cloaking systems. The Empire, in turn, dismissed the event as a minor setback. Plans were made to send a larger force to subdue Earth, but it was not given any priority. There were far bigger battles being fought, and Earth was still seen as a low-value target. Meanwhile, on Earth, the encounter had triggered an unprecedented response. Governments across the globe were forced to set aside their differences and unite against the common threat. The nations of Earth had always been divided, plagued by political conflicts and territorial disputes. But now, with the realization that they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined, humanity did what it did best: it adapted. Military forces from every major power on the planet were mobilized. Earth scientists and engineers, realizing that they were at a severe technological disadvantage, worked around the clock to reverse engineer the remnants of alien technology that had been recovered from the downed scout ship. What they lacked in resources, they made up for with creativity and sheer determination. Human ingenuity, born out of centuries of warfare and survival, began to bridge the gap between their technology and the alien invaders. The Technari believed that a larger fleet would crush Earth's resistance. They saw no reason to believe otherwise. After all, they had wiped out countless species before, many far more advanced than the humans. But they didn't understand the human mindset. Earth had spent its entire history fighting for survival, whether against nature itself or external threats. Every challenge had been met with innovation, adaptation, and a relentless will to survive. As Earth's defenses grew stronger, the Technari fleet arrived, fully expecting a swift victory. They sent another message, demanding Earth's surrender. Again, the response was defiance. But this time, the Technari weren't dealing with an unprepared planet. Earth had been waiting, and they were ready. The first wave of Technari ships entered Earth's orbit, confident in their superiority. What followed was not a conventional battle. Earth's military commanders knew they couldn't match the Technari ship for ship or weapon for weapon. Instead, they relied on tactics that the Technari had never encountered before. Using Earth's own natural defenses, they lured the Technari ships into carefully laid traps. Missiles, now equipped with reverse-engineered alien guidance systems, struck with pinpoint accuracy. Ground-based energy weapons, powered by salvaged alien tech, tore through Technari shields. Even the Technari's superior numbers were of little use in the face of Earth's guerrilla tactics. The humans attacked from unexpected angles, striking quickly before disappearing into the planet's terrain. The Technari had never fought an enemy like this before. They were used to overwhelming their foes with superior technology and numbers. But the humans fought with a tenacity and creativity that the Technari had not anticipated. Where most species would have crumbled under the weight of the Technari assault, the humans pushed back, adapting their strategies with each encounter. The Technari fleet was not destroyed, but it was forced to retreat, damaged and humiliated. The Empire, now realizing that Earth was far more dangerous than they had believed, began to take the human threat seriously. But even as they planned their next move, humanity was already preparing for the next stage of the war. Back on Earth, leaders across the globe knew that the Technari would return, and in greater numbers. They knew that Earth couldn't rely on defense alone. If they were to survive, they would need to take the fight to the Technari. Humanity had been underestimated once, but now, armed with alien technology and a united front, they were ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The Technari had made the fatal mistake of assuming that humanity's worth could be measured by their technology. But the true strength of humanity lay not in their machines, but in their ability to adapt, to fight back, and to rise stronger from every defeat. And as the Technari fleet limped back to their empire, they began to understand the truth. Earth was no longer an insignificant backwater planet. Earth was a threat, and humanity was coming for them. Humanity had always been underestimated. The Technari Empire and the Xyrax Coalition viewed Earth as a planet of no real consequence, but that assumption was about to be shattered. With the Technari scout ship's defeat, Earth had been put on the galactic map, and humanity was now fully aware of the threat they faced. The people of Earth, realizing the scale of the danger, began to move faster than anyone could have anticipated. The Technari, shaken by their unexpected losses, were determined to crush humanity before Earth could pose a real threat. They sent a larger fleet, confident that this would be enough to overwhelm the humans. However, they had yet to understand humanity's unique strength, their ability to learn, adapt, and evolve quickly in the face of danger. What the Technari saw as a primitive species was, in fact, a formidable opponent. Earth had never been one to back down from a fight. The humans worked relentlessly to reverse engineer the alien technology they had captured from the scout ship. Scientists, engineers, and military experts collaborated across the globe, breaking down the alien tech and integrating it with human ingenuity. This wasn't just about building new weapons or shields. This was about transforming the very nature of their defense and offense capabilities. The Technari's advanced systems, once considered too complex for humans, were now being adapted for Earth's use. The gap between human and alien technology was closing at an alarming rate. When the larger Technari fleet finally arrived, they expected to face the same outdated defenses they had encountered during their first invasion attempt. Instead, they were met with something far different. Earth's fleet, hastily built and rugged in appearance, took to space. These ships were not the polished, sleek vessels of the Technari, but they were formidable nonetheless. The human fleet was a patchwork of human and alien technology, combined in ways the Technari had never seen before. Humanity's ships moved with unexpected precision. Their weapons systems, though crude by Technari standards, were enhanced with alien targeting technology. The human pilots, trained in Earth's atmosphere and having honed their skills through centuries of aerial combat, quickly adapted to space warfare. The Technari were unprepared for the ferocity of the human assault. Earth's forces, though outnumbered, fought with a tenacity that threw the Technari off balance. The battle in space was unlike anything the Technari had ever faced. They had expected a quick, decisive victory, but the humans were relentless. Their tactics were unconventional. They didn't follow the patterns the Technari had learned to predict from centuries of warfare against other species. Instead, humanity used guerrilla-style tactics, drawing the Technari into close-quarter skirmishes where their larger, more powerful ships were at a disadvantage. The humans exploited weaknesses in the Technari formations, attacking from unexpected angles and retreating before the Technari could respond effectively. For every Technari ship that fell, the humans seemed to gain more confidence. They adapted rapidly to each encounter, learning from every mistake and improving with each battle. Their resilience shocked the Technari, who had never faced an opponent that could recover so quickly and strike back harder each time. As the battle raged in space, humanity's ground forces also prepared for the inevitable. The Technari, unable to achieve a quick victory in space, launched an invasion of Earth. They believed that their ground forces, equipped with superior technology and weaponry, would easily subdue the human military. But once again, they underestimated the resourcefulness and adaptability of humanity. Earth's soldiers, trained in countless conflicts over centuries, knew their terrain better than any alien invader could. The humans employed tactics that the Technari had no counter for. They used the planet's natural environment to their advantage, setting up ambushes in dense forests, cities, and mountain ranges. Technari forces, despite their technological superiority, were outmaneuvered at every turn. The humans also displayed an unsettling disregard for their own survival. Technari commanders were accustomed to enemies retreating in the face of overwhelming odds, but the humans didn't run. They fought with a kind of desperation that the Technari couldn't comprehend. Small human battalions would engage Technari forces much larger in number, using hit-and-run tactics, setting traps, and employing guerrilla warfare strategies that kept the technologically superior enemy constantly off balance. The Technari, used to winning battles through superior firepower and strategy, found themselves bogged down in a conflict they hadn't anticipated. Earth wasn't falling. It was fighting back with every ounce of strength it had. And it wasn't just military forces that were resisting, human civilians, too, played their part. Entire cities mobilized to support the war effort, with factories converting to produce weapons and ammunition, and everyday citizens taking up arms to defend their planet. The Technari Empire had faced resistance before, but never like this. The sheer unpredictability of human strategy baffled them. Every time the Technari believed they had the humans cornered, Earth's forces would counter with something new, something unexpected. It was as if humanity's capacity to innovate and adapt was endless. The final blow to the Technari came when Earth unleashed its greatest asset, the human mind. While the Technari relied heavily on their technological superiority, they didn't anticipate the level of ingenuity that human scientists and engineers could bring to the battlefield. The reverse-engineered alien technology had now been fully integrated into Earth's war machines. Human ships, now armed with Technari-grade weapons, began pushing back the Technari fleet. Their ground forces, equipped with new energy-based weaponry, began to dismantle the Technari invaders. The tide of battle shifted, and for the first time, the Technari found themselves on the defensive. What was once thought to be a routine conquest had turned into a nightmare. Earth, the backwater planet they had dismissed, had become a fortress, and humanity had transformed from an insignificant species into a galactic power. As the Technari fleet retreated, they left behind a galaxy that would never be the same. Humanity had entered the war, not as a minor player, but as a force to be reckoned with. The Technari, humbled and shaken, now understood that they had awakened a sleeping giant. The humans, once thought of as weak and primitive, had proven that their greatest strength was their capacity to overcome impossible odds. Earth's forces, victorious in both space and on the ground, now turned their attention to the larger galactic conflict. Humanity had learned that they were not alone in the universe, and that there were even greater threats beyond the Technari. But now, with their newfound strength and knowledge, they were ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had been at war for centuries, but now, a new player had entered the fray. Humanity, with its unique blend of innovation, adaptability, and sheer willpower, was poised to change the course of the galactic war. The Technari had learned a painful lesson, but the rest of the galaxy would soon come to realize that Earth was not to be underestimated. The war had just begun, and humanity was ready. The retreat of the Technari fleet was not just a tactical withdrawal, it was an admission of failure. They had expected a swift conquest of Earth, but instead, they found themselves outmaneuvered and humiliated by a species they had once deemed primitive. The news of their defeat spread quickly through the galaxy, reaching the ears of both the Xyrax coalition and other distant civilizations. The galaxy had taken notice. Humanity was no longer just a minor player in the cosmic game of war. They had emerged as a force capable of reshaping the balance of power. The Technari Empire, still reeling from their unexpected losses, faced a choice. They could escalate the war, bringing even more of their resources to bear against Earth, or they could risk losing more than just territory. But the Technari were proud, and they were not accustomed to admitting defeat. Their leaders convened in secret, debating how best to handle this new threat. They could not afford to ignore humanity, but they also could not afford to lose more ships, more soldiers, and more of their reputation to what had once been a backwater planet. In their arrogance, they made the decision to regroup and launch a massive invasion, convinced that overwhelming force would finally break Earth's defenses. But while the Technari plotted their next move, humanity was already several steps ahead. Earth had learned from every encounter, every battle, and every loss. The initial shock of facing a galactic empire had worn off, replaced by a fierce determination to not only defend their home but to take the fight to the Technari. No longer content with simply surviving, humanity sought to prove that they were more than a species that could be ignored or conquered. Humanity's ability to adapt had always been its greatest strength, and now that adaptability was on full display. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to integrate the Technari technology with their own. New ships were being built, faster and more powerful than anything Earth had previously created. Weapon systems had been upgraded, using Technari tech to enhance precision and firepower. Every piece of alien technology humanity could salvage was reverse-engineered, studied, and improved upon. Earth's fleets were now a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien power, and they were ready for war. When the Technari returned, they found a very different Earth waiting for them. The humans had fortified their planet and established defensive outposts throughout their solar system. The Technari commanders expected the same disorganized resistance they had faced before, but instead, they encountered a coordinated, highly efficient war machine. The humans did not wait for the Technari to land. They launched preemptive strikes, hitting Technari's ships before they could get into position. Earth's new fleet, equipped with advanced weaponry, tore through the Technari formations with brutal precision. The Technari quickly realized that their conventional strategies would no longer work. They had expected to overpower Earth with sheer numbers, but the humans had learned how to fight back effectively. Each Technari loss was met with a human victory, and the Technari commanders, once so confident in their supremacy, began to understand that this was not a fight they could win through brute force alone. But the humans weren't satisfied with just defending their planet. They pushed further, launching raids against Technari supply lines and forward bases. Their hit-and-run tactics disrupted the Technari's ability to resupply their fleets, further weakening their ability to sustain the war. Human forces, once limited to defending Earth, began to expand their reach. Technari-controlled space was no longer safe. In the midst of this conflict, other civilizations watched with growing interest. Many had been subjugated by the Technari over the centuries, forced to pay tribute or fight in the Empire's wars. Now, with the Technari losing ground to humanity, whispers of rebellion began to spread. If Earth, a planet the Technari had dismissed as insignificant, could stand up to the Empire, perhaps others could too. The Xyrax coalition, who had been locked in a brutal stalemate with the Technari for years, saw an opportunity. They had never considered humanity a potential ally, but now they were forced to reassess. The coalition reached out to Earth, offering a tentative alliance. They had no interest in helping the Technari regain control, and they saw the humans as a potential partner in their ongoing war. Humanity, however, did not rush into the alliance. Earth's leaders knew that while the Xyrax opposed the Technari, they could not be fully trusted either. Still, the prospect of weakening the Technari further was too tempting to ignore. The Technari Empire, once feared across the galaxy, was now on the defensive. Their fleets, stretched thin by years of war, were losing ground not only to the humans but also to the Xyrax, who had begun a renewed offensive. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them to the real threat that humanity posed, and now, it was too late to correct their mistake. Each Technari defeat emboldened their enemies, and the Empire's grip on the galaxy began to slip. Back on Earth, victory was not seen as a final goal, but a step towards something larger. Humanity had been thrust into a galactic war, and now they had no choice but to continue fighting. They had proven that they could stand against the Technari, but there were other threats in the galaxy, other empires and coalitions that would not take kindly to Earth's rising power. The humans had shown their strength, but they knew that their position in the galaxy was still tenuous. The final blow to the Technari came when Earth launched a coordinated strike deep into Technari space. This wasn't just a raid or a defensive action, it was an invasion. Human forces, now fully equipped with Technari-enhanced technology, pushed into the heart of the Empire. They targeted key infrastructure, crippling the Technari's ability to wage war. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity, once considered a minor species, tore through the Technari's defenses and brought the Empire to its knees. The Technari, faced with the total collapse of their empire, had no choice but to sue for peace. They could no longer afford to fight a war on two fronts, against the humans and the Xyrax. In the end, humanity had done what no other species had been able to do: they had humbled the Technari Empire. The war was over, but the galaxy would never forget what had happened. Earth, once dismissed as irrelevant, had become a major player in galactic politics. The Technari, now a shadow of their former selves, could no longer impose their will on the galaxy. And the humans, having proven their worth, were no longer just another species in the cosmos. They were a power to be reckoned with. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate humanity.